Spin.cycle Studios.
Hello everybody and welcome to Spin Cycle Studios, the channel where we aim to answer studio-related questions without wasting too much of your time. Today, we're checking out something that I think is a pretty underappreciated piece of gear, the DBX 1046 Quad Compressor Limiter. Why are we checking out this piece of gear today? Well, there's this legendary compressor known as the DBX 160X, and it's known as a great compressor for the drums, the drum bus, and just really bringing out the spank in the drums. That compressor costs a couple grand nowadays, so we need to look for affordable alternatives. Enter the DBX 1046. I scooped mine up for about 120 bucks Canadian a couple of weeks ago. So this is one of those pieces of gear that's been discontinued for a few years. Nobody really liked, but looking at the specs, I actually think it's pretty similar to the 160X. The DBX 1046 Quad Compressor Limiter is a pretty simple 4-channel compressor that fits into a single rack space and has pretty much the exact same controls as the DBX 160X. I know what you're thinking, but Marko, the DBX 160 is legendary, it's vintage, it's old, and this is some discontinued mid-2000s piece of gear. Yeah, but I think the similarities go deeper than just the controls on the front panel. Let's check out the specs. On the screen now, you've got the specifications for the DBX 1046 and the 160X. On the top is the 1046, on the bottom is the 160. As you can see, the attack time written is the exact same for both compressors, and although the release time is written a bit differently, 0 to 500 milliseconds for the 160 and 125 dB per second for the 1046, they're both program dependent and they're both kind of variable based on what's going into the compressors, so to be honest, they're not that different. The real test, though, is how they sound compared to each other. So let's jump into Logic and check it out. I've set up a session where I have a drum loop printed, and it's going through both compressors, running out of my patch bay into the compressor for the 1046, and for the DBX 160, obviously I can't afford one of those, so we have a plugin from Analog Obsession doing that compression. So, they sound pretty darn similar, don't they? Not bad for a compressor that cost me $100. Didn't have to spend that $2,000 for that proper hardware compressor, although the Analog Obsession plugin did sound pretty good. Overall, I think it's a good piece of kit for the money, and you get 4 channels for $100. Scoop it up while you can, in my opinion. Sure, they didn't sound exactly the same, but you know what? The 1046 may have sounded a little bit smoother on the release, just making the drums sound a little bit more tame than what would be the old vintage unit. But you know what? Overall, you get 4 channels for $100. I don't think you can really beat it for a real hardware compressor that you can put in your rack. That's just one man's opinion. I'd like to know what you think. Drop me a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.